Assalamu alaikum. Professor, are you still here? Are you here?
Okay, my friends, today we will start talking about our first non-introductory topic that has to do directly with the language of the Quran, namely Rasm, the Quran. But few ground rules before we start are in order. One is that according to modern linguistics, there is no inherent relationship between the writing system, script, and the meanings in the language. There is no direct correspondence or necessary link between the sounds of the language and how you choose to record it. So a script, one script, can be adopted and sometimes adapted to express the sounds of a language, any language. For instance, the Arabic script was the script of choice for Turkish up to the beginning of the 20th century. The modern Turkish state has decided to adopt the Latin script to express the Turkish language. This means that there is no inherent relationship between the Arabic script and Turkish. However, given this universal linguistic concept, it is not easy, as we will talk today, to use a non-Arabic script or even a modified Arabic script to express the sounds of the Qur'an. Although a modified Nabatean script made into Arabic, modified and remodified and improved, is what we now use for classical Arabic and modern standard Arabic. The Quran is a different story, and we'll talk about it. One more universal rule to keep in the back of our minds is that this script that the Quran uses, as we probably have read last week, and especially those of you who have read the skeleton, the consonantal skeleton of the Quran reading, have realized that we could in fact notice the improvements in the same manuscript of the Quran from one surah to another, from one folio to another. So there is a degree of historical evolution in the script. I'm not saying in the Quran as a text, but in the script that the Quran is used. However, this is also problematic. And we will talk about it also. Any questions so far? No. What is Rasm? Linguistically and also in technically. Linguistically, Rasm in classical Arabic is the print or the mark that you leave on a flat surface. It is easy, I hope, to understand how the Arabs extracted from that quite concrete semantic function of the word rasm to extend for writing. Any questions so far?
My question would be, you mentioned that the script that is spoken for modern standard is from Nabatean. So what about for the Quran? Did you mention that? Is that also for the Quran? It comes from the Nabatean script or a modified?
It is originally the same script, yes, but with less modifications than the one we have used for classical and modern standard Arabic.
Okay, thanks.
We've added a lot of marks, and we have standardized and stabilized conventions. Technically, Rasm is the group of rules and conventions used in the recording of the Qur'an in writing. In other words, it is the spelling conventions usable only for the Qur'an and not for the rest of the Arabic language. And that's an important distinction. Another distinction is that Rasm refers to the rules and conventions of dictation, not to calligraphy and how the letter is shaped. Again, the Rasm, insofar as the Quran is concerned, is a group of conventions and rules for the spelling of the Quran only, apart from every other Arabic text. And it also excludes calligraphy. Do we all know what calligraphy is, you guys?
Yep.
Okay. Good. Any questions? Okay. So the purpose of our topic is to discuss a visual phenomenon, the Rasm, as a visual phenomenon. Right? And it is the cases, instances in which the spelling of the Quran differs from the spelling of classical and modern standard Arabic. This is our purpose. Our purpose is not to understand how Arabic spelling works, but in fact is to understand in what way the Rasm of the Quran differs from writing classical Arabic. And also, I'm not here to explain this difference or justify it or even apologize for it. Apologize means explain it away. I'm not here to do that. There's two reasons for avoiding to do this. One reason is that the Quran as is what we in Latin call sui generis, a genre of its own, a unique text, one that we have inherited as such and will keep as such. We're not in a reform advocacy phase where we want to change how the Quran is being represented in writing. That's one thing. The other reason, as we will see later, everybody who tried to explain or justify does not seem to have solid methodological grounds or means for proving their points, for verifying their assumptions. We'll see examples of that today. Any questions so far?
Mentioned that the modern Arabic and the Quranic Arabic do not have the same spelling. Are you referring to pronunciation or the same exact word is spelled differently in each instance?
And thank you for this question, Muhammad. This is really an interesting question. In some cases, you would see that there is a difference between how the word is spelled, the same word is spelled in the Quran, and in another part of the Quran. So in one verse, it's spelled in one way. In another verse, it's spelled in another way. One of the two ways of spelling agrees with the spelling of classical and modern standard Arabic. The other doesn't.
Okay, and so overall they still have the same kind of denotation or connotation?
That is the justification that some scholars are trying to tell us, that the difference in some spelling in the Quran corresponds to a difference in connotation or in context.
Okay.
We will see examples of that today, and we will try on our own to decide if this is a good explanation or not.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Any other questions or comments? No. That said, so despite the difference in spelling, the way the Quran is pronounced is the same. So a word like Rahmat Rabbika, Rahmatu Rabbika, according to the rules of classical Arabic, the word Rahma as the first word of an idafa structure is written with a ta marbuta. Rahma, Ra, Ha, Mim, ta marbuta. But it is pronounced Rahmatu Rabbika, pronounced with a ta, because it's the first word of an idafa structure. And we know that the first word of an idafa structure, when it is feminine, the ta marbuta, the regular feminine marker, ta marbuta, is pronounced like a regular ta. In some cases, few cases in the Quran, the word in the first word of an idafa structure, feminine, is written with a regular ta. In both cases, however, the pronunciation is the same. Rahmatu Rabbika. And we'll get examples, 2 or 3 examples of that in this class. What does this tell us? Or does this imply anything? Can we guess anything from this? The stability of pronunciation, although in some cases the Rasm differs.
Spelling conventions were not maybe as fixed because it was mainly a spoken or language or a recited language.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brian. There is a supremacy of recitation over reading. Recitation remains, in fact, the main method with which the Quran is delivered. The written, the printed, the copied text, conventional as it may be, is probably still very secondary to recital. Right? And this persists despite the fact that Arab Muslim societies have largely shifted from traditionally culturally oral societies into more and more literate societies. Any questions so far?
My question would be, if you have like a consonantal text, how do you know the way that it's pronounced and that it's pronounced the same way, since it's just what we'd call like a, I don't know. Yeah, that's the question. You have a consonantal text, how do you know how they pronounced it?
Insofar as the Quran is concerned, or insofar as Arabic in general is concerned, the answer differs.
Okay, well, let's talk about the Quran then.
Okay, so like I just said, if you remember from our introduction, and we will, once we also get to see the to study Qira'at, we will find out that the Quran was transmitted through a chain of transmission from from closer to the Prophet to further down in history, by a continuous chain of transmission, which is expected, theoretically expected, to have transmitted the oral nature and structure of the text as is given from the Prophet to the first person in a chain of transmission.
Okay, thanks.
Brian, also, if I can use something from my own personal experience, you may have noticed that I am visually impaired, right? Back in the day in my country, visually impaired people went into 2 kinds of jobs. that's of course tradition, right? In the 19th century and before. And both kinds of jobs had to do with using your ear, namely going into religion, especially Qur'an teaching or recital, and into music, right? And the way people memorize the Qur'an, visually impaired or visually non-impaired people, was by repeating it and not looking at a printed Qur'an. Okay. Now, if, and this is a real if, it's not a hypothetical teacher's if there is, in some cases, difference or variation in the Rasm of the Quran, what does that imply?
It's possible there were different people writing it. Maybe not the same person. I mean, that was said at one point when we were reading earlier that they could tell that there were 3 different people possibly or writing one of the copies.
Absolutely. But the example you're referring to is kind of a late example. And also, yes, in a collection process, different people may have written it differently, but there was an editorial committee. The biography of the 4 guided caliphs, all of them really recount a very rigorous idea of editing and standardization. But I think the answer to this question depends on, which is somewhat frustrating, depends on the position of the person trying to give an answer to this question. Again, if the person is a non-believer, the answer is really easy. So if the text does not represent to this person an ideal holy holy text delivered directly from the Lord through his prophet to us, then the answer is, yeah, variation happens in a culture where writing has been new and in development. So it's very natural for the convention not to be quite stable. It's a good answer. It's a very plausible response. But if the person trying to give an answer to this question is a believer in the holiness and in the authenticity of a text, that person is, to a degree, in a predicament. On the one hand, they cannot accept a plausible answer. And on the other hand, they have to choose between 2 difficult to prove answers. Any question?
What is it that you can help me since I'm not a Muslim? What is it that Muslims believe that would prevent them from believing, for example, that people didn't write words in the same way when they heard them?
Because there is several explicit references in the biography of the Prophet that he indeed, when he dictated, he reviewed the dictation. Right? And like, if you remember, the definition of the Quran that we have covered last time includes that which is recorded in the Masahif.
If he reviewed it, does that mean that he's reviewing it for perfect spelling? Or is it that limited? What it says?
Well, you take it like you want to take it. If he is reviewing it for perfect spelling, if he is reviewing it for spelling and for wording, and if he is reviewing it for both. Belief is a problematic issue, Brian. So traditional Muslim scholars have taken three different routes in dealing with this question. Earlier grammarians and underline that, and later secular scholars, earlier grammarians and later secular scholars. Earlier grammarians before the text of the Quran became dominant over the scholarly world indeed believed that the cases in which the Quran disagreed in spelling with the spelling conventions of classical Arabic were mistakes. Were spelling mistakes. One notable example is al-Farra, who died in the year 207 of the Islamic era, and Ibn Qutayba, who died soon thereafter. So that's the first group. And you might find this group to be a reasonable group because of the material in the previous 2 weeks. There are, however, two other groups that tried to find an answer for this question. One group believed that the difference of spelling in some words in the Quran from the spelling of the same words in other places in the Quran and from the spelling conventions of classical Arabic come as ordained by God. And this is technically called tawfiqiyya. Tawqifiyya. Tawqifiyya. God has revealed it this way to his prophet, who has dictated it this way to the whoever wrote it, and those companions of the prophet have all accepted it as tawqifiyya from God.
Can you explain the definition one more time, please?
Tawqifiyya is when God has ordained something in this particular way, regardless if it agrees or disagrees with the rules and conventions in non-religious contexts. So, for instance, the rules of tajweed in the Quran, which we will cover later, are tawqifiyya rules. They apply only to the sounds of the Quran, and they do not apply to the sounds of classical and modern standard Arabic. For instance, writing the word rahmah with a regular ta is a mistake in classical Arabic. And it doesn't happen except probably 9 times in the Quran, and the rest of the times in which a feminine word is written, it is always written with a ta marbuta. It is acceptable in the Quran. You cannot change it in the Quran because it is a tawqifiyya instance. Is that a good explanation?
Yes. I just want to ask, like, you don't mean that it's supposed to be like written a different way, correct?
What do you mean?
Like you're saying the word rahma, the way it's written, when it's used in like, the male sense. Are you trying to say that it's like meant to be written a different way?
No, I didn't say it's meant to do anything. It is written like this in the Quran and it remains like this. But it does not agree with the other instances where every feminine word is written with a ta marbuta. And also the other instances where rahmah is written in the Quran, it is written with a ta marbuta, except in very few cases.
How is the other way written?
Ta marbuta. And
The one without the ta
yes.
marbuta.
And in few cases, it's ta maftuha. And we will see these examples in a little bit. Any other questions or comments? I have a video that I want to share for the group of scholars who believe that the way in which the Quran records words in writing is tawqifi. And it's the overwhelming majority of interested people and scholars. Now, I have an example, a video example from Sheikh Sharawi. Do you guys know who Sheikh Sharawi is?
No, I don't.
Muhammad doesn't. Mahmoud doesn't. Who knows?
I think I've heard of him,
What did you hear?
like about an opinion or something that he's had, or a lecture that he's made.
He is an Egyptian scholar. He's a very well known all over the Arab world. And he is one of the most prominent in the second half of the 20th century with Al-Ghazali. Let me now, can you see my screen?
Yes.
He had a TV show that aired every Friday in which he gave his own interpretation of the Quran. Let's see if we can watch the video together. Oh, what did I do? Oh, God. Sorry. Yeah, here it is. Can you hear?
Not very well for some reason. At least I can't.
Yeah, it's a little quiet.
Yeah, I can't
Uh,
either.
Let me see. Well, it's okay. Can I ask you guys to go to the link and watch it each on their own and come back to class? So, what did we get from this video? Not quite much.
I mean, I got to see some of the like justifications that people use for why things are written differently, and I mean, I agree a lot with what the Sheikh said, where it's like the Quran isn't really meant to be read; it's meant to, but like having it in a written form just makes it so that it can be more accessible to people. But the meaning really lies in the recitation.
Sounds good. Yes, I think I agree with that too, but that's not the main point Sheikh Sharawi is trying to use to justify why there are words in the Quran whose spelling is different from the same word in the Quran and in other Arabic texts.
I didn't exactly, like find that he mentioned like a reason why it would be written the same way, but he did mention that there is there is a reason why they're written differently, and like we are meant to pronounce them differently or to read them differently.
Yeah, no, we're meant to understand them different.
Yes.
That's the main point. Yes, Hiba, exactly. So the main premise for the Sheikh Sharawi and his other colleagues who subscribe to that belief is in fact an apology, meaning that they try to find why the Quran is what it is because they have an inherent assumption that it is revealed tawqifan. Very good. The point that Sheikh Sharawi is giving is really, in fact, is interesting, and it is, let me give you a little bit about the man. He provides a very insightful interpretation of the Quran that you can also get in video and in text, which depends on a Sufi interpretation of the language. Sheikh al-Sharkawi is a very skilled semantician of Arabic. He knows the Arabic lexicon really well, and he uses his knowledge to provide a Sufi interpretation of the Quran. And some people, of course, interpretations are different, but it fits the taste of a lot of the Arab Muslims in particular, especially in North Africa. However, he provides 2 points of apology for this phenomenon. One is that the Quran is Revelation is trying to tell you that each of these words needs to be tasted, savored individually. That's why in few cases the spelling of the words differs, right? That's first apology. And the second and more common apology is that there is a link, a semantic link, between the spelling of the Quran in a particular instance and the context of the word and the verse in which this idiosyncratic spelling falls. We will get to see a lot of examples for that explanation, right? So this is the most common group of scholars who tackle this issue of the difference in spelling. Any question or comment? Okay. The third and final group of scholars seem to think that since the Quran was revealed containing words and grammatical features from different dialects of Arabic at the time of revelation, the instances in which the Quran spelling of the word differs from the Quran spelling of the same word in other instances and of the same word in regular Arabic is an instance of using this very idiosyncratic spelled word in a different dialect of Arabic. Right? So this group also thinks that the Quran spelling is tawqifi, but it is tawqifi not for an esoteric or semantic reason, but for dialectal reason. Somebody wrote something in a message, and I am trying to read it. Hiba, did anyone else find it a little bit difficult to understand what he was saying because of the Egyptian dialect. Yes. He mixed classical and Egyptian Arabic quite much. Yeah, and I apologize for that. But it is what it is.
It's fine. I'm very bad at understanding different dialects if they're outside of the Levant.
No, it's okay. Um, uh, a lot of people, for instance, have a problem understanding Moroccan Arabic. But if you get used to it, you will see that it's not that difficult. So is Egyptian Arabic. Just gets it takes getting used to. So this is the third. However, any questions?
So are you saying the third group believes that the dialects,
Mhm.
various dialects account for the differences, and that in itself is what was the word again?
Tawqifi.
Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
Is that
Yes.
it? Okay.
All that said, the Arabic script, the Nabatean script that was adopted and adapted for use in Arabic and for use in the Quran is an abjad. And an abjad is a consonantal script. It's a script that does not represent short vowels and only partially represent long vowels. Indeed, representing long vowels in writing was to a degree optional in the initial phase of writing Arabic using that script. So, given that fact, this consonantal abjad script is one that allows for a lot of variation in vowel representation, short vowels and long vowels. Right? So a word that is written in 3 letters, kaf, ta, and ba, can be read kutub, katab, kutiba, kataba, and kitab, and also katab. The script itself allows for variation. But that general abjad nature of the script does not explain why, in very few cases in the Quran, the word does not follow the conventions. We cannot blame this idiosyncratic and non-conventional use on the abjad nature of that consonantal writing system. Any question? Let me give you an example for that. I hope you guys have your Qur'ans with you. If you do, go to Surah 51, verse 47.
Which one is 51?
Surah 51. Let me get my Mus'haf.
I'm gonna butcher this. It's Adariyat. I don't know if that's how you say it.
It's what?
Adariyat.
Zariyat?
Dariyat.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Said verse 41.
I think
47, I think.
7.
47.
And it is, yes, page, sorry, verse 47. Yeah.
Sorry,
والسماء okay.
is it in the last juz?
The one that starts with والسماء. Are you guys there?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Hiba, are you there?
No, I'm still trying to find it.
Surah 51, verse 41.
No, 47. Verse 47.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Who can read it for us?
I can read it.
Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
والسماء بنيناها بأيدينا وإنا لموسعون.
Very good. Okay. Can you please do it again?
Yes, I can. والسماء بنيناها بأيد وإنا لموسعون. بأياد صح؟ I think yep.
Yes.
نعم.
Okay.
والسماء بنيناها بأياد وإنا لموسعون.
So why are you confused in reading the script, Sair?
I was looking at it on my phone, and my phone is pretty small.
Even if you look at it on your mushaf like I am.
نعم, I have a mushaf right next to me, so I looked at it again.
Yeah, that's fine.
نعم.
Who notices something interesting in the word بأيد?
There's two, yeah.
Exactly, Sajida. There's 2 yas. Why is that? This is the only time in the Quran where 2 yas come in a row. And it is, of course, in conventional Arabic script and rules of dictation, just wrong. Right? That's one example of how, quote unquote, unique the Rasm of the Quran is, and how being a consonantal abjad is not a good explanation. Would you like one more example?
Sure.
Yes.
Go to Surah number 5, verse 69. Surah number 5, verse 69. Number 5 is Surah Al-Ma'idah. Number 5, verse 69. Are you there?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Who can read this verse to us? Fred, can you try?
Yep, in Arabic or English?
In Arabic.
يلا. إن الذين آمنوا والذين هادوا والصابون
والصابئون
والصابئون وناصري من آمن
wait.
نصارى
والنصارى
والنصارى
Mhm.
من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر وعمل صالحا فلا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون.
ممتاز. Very good, Fred. Thank you very much. I need another reading. Actually, 2 readings. Because I'll ask you.
I can do one.
You can do one? Okay, Heba, go for it.
إن الذين آمنوا والذين هادوا والصابئون والنصارى من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر وعمل صالحا فلا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون.
Very good. I need another one.
I'll go for it.
I could.
ابتهال.
إن الذين آمنوا والذين هادوا والصابئون والنصارى من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر وعمل صالحا فلا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون.
Thank you very much, ابتهال. Okay, do you guys notice anything interesting in this verse, language-wise? إن الذين آمنوا والذين هادوا والصابئون والنصارى. Here, in this part, anything noteworthy in this part?
Amana.
Oh, no, Amana is cool. It's good.
Is it-
Fred?
There's no Hamza عن آمنوا?
No. We'll talk about Hamzas later.
Is
The
it
word
a
so, تفضلي هبة.
الصابئون?
Yes, what's interesting in this word?
Because in other parts of the Quran it's written as sabi'in.
It should be sabi'in here, because the mubtada of a nominal sentence after inna needs to be in the accusative case, mansub. And the mansub is sabi'ina and not sabi'una. So, in other verses in the Quran, and we will see one of these examples later, الصابئين is grammatically correct. This one, it's grammatically incorrect. And why? Before why? This verse tells you, or this word, الصابئون, tells you that, in fact, the justification of the difference in spelling is not with the fact that the Arabic script is an abjad and not an alphabet is not a good explanation. Right? So, yeah, go ahead.
What does the word mean?
Sabi'una?
Yeah.
Does anybody know who Sabi'un are?
Yeah, they're a type of people.
Thank you. Who are the Sabi'un?
They don't exist anymore.
They
But
do, actually.
what do you mean?
Yeah, they do in Iraq.
I don't know. When I learned about them, I
So who are
they
they?
don't exist anymore.
Who are they? Who are those Sabi'un?
The Sabians, no one really knows much about them, honestly. There isn't much like history and stuff about them.
There is one of our colleagues in the department who is a Sabi.
They're mentioned in the Bible.
Who are they?
They're people who in the Psalms of David and the prophet Isaiah, they exported gold, and as prophet Ezekiel, they exported like precious stones, and some of the other prophets perfumes. Honestly, I've heard of them, but I almost have to look it up. You know, they were mentioned in various places, but it's like a far off nation that dealt in slaves.
Were they also pagans?
No, they were not pagans. The Sabi'una are those Jewish people who, during the time of John the Baptist, Yohanna al-Ma'madan, who stopped believing in the teaching of the rabbis in the temple of Jerusalem, and believed in God and waited for the Messiah. And when John the Baptist started preaching for the coming of Jesus, they followed him. Okay? But besides the point, this word is grammatically incorrect in this verse, although it is grammatically correct in other verses, as we will see later. So the explanation by the Arabic consonant script only is not a good explanation. So we have two examples for that. So we have to find a more plausible explanation. Shall we go on? So let's, for instance, go to Surah number 11, verse 105. Surah 11, verse 105. And Surah 11 is Surah Hud. Verse 105. Are you guys there?
Does that start with the word Yom?
Yes.
Surah Hud?
No.
Yes. Surah 11.
Okay. Surah 11, verse 105. Who can read it for us?
I can try.
Go ahead, Brian.
يوم يأتي لا تتكلم نفس إلا بإذنه فمنهم شقي وسعيد.
Very good. Thank you very much. I need another reading.
I can go.
Go ahead.
يوم يأتي لا تكلم نفس إلا بإذنه فمنهم شقي وسعيد.
Very good. So did you guys notice, both of you your pronunciation of the verb, the second word in the verse, which is the verb. Brian, can you pronounce it?
Yati.
Mahmoud, can you pronounce it?
Yeti.
Yes. So the two of you pronounce it with a kasra, right? Yati.
Yeah, it's written in the Quran like that here.
Yes. But why is not the ta written? Sorry, why is not the ya written? There is no syntactic or morphological reason for the yati final ya to be reduced into a kasra.
Could you repeat the thought one more time?
Yes. So in this verb, ya'ti, in yawma ya'ti, requires a final ya. The verb is ya'ti. There is no grammatical or morphological reason for this final ya to be elided, to be shortened into a kasra. Any justification? No, not تكلم ساجدة. I'm focusing on ya.
Shouldn't it be تتكلم? So there's a missing ta.
No. Let's not get into this word for now.
Okay.
Let's focus on ya'ti. So according to the pronunciation conventions of some dialects of Arabic, especially the dialects that are east of Hijaz to the border of Najd, they shortened long final vowels into shorter vowels. So E was shortened into an E. This is an example that justifies, in fact, that the difference in the Rasm or the variation in the Rasm of the Quran may have a dialectal background to it. Any question or comment?
The paper that I wrote for the last class, this is what he was saying, is that there's quite a few reasons to believe that it looks like Hijazi, but he was saying that the early Muslims didn't disagree with this. Like there were a number of people who wrote that that's what, in fact, the language was. I believe so. I don't see why that would be against, like, to believe that would go against Islam.
It doesn't go against Islam, but there is also there is also something Van Putten did not try to explain, right? Namely that why isn't the same rule followed all through the Quran? So why isn't all final long vowels reduced into short forms? Why is it in this instance only? You see the point?
Yes.
If it is a sign that it is the spoken dialect, it should have been pervasive all through the text. The issue with the variation in the Rasm is that it happens in one word or in very few words. It is not a general convention. That's why I am saying this example of 11.105 is a good instance where a dialectal word may be an explanation or a partial explanation, and I think the explanation is compound. Let's take one more example, shall we? Or do you guys have a question before I go on to the next example? No? Okay. Let's go to Surah number 2, verse 62. Surah al-Baqarah, verse 62. Are you there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Who can read it for us?
I can read it.
Oh, go ahead.
إن الذين آمنوا والذين إن الذين آمنوا والذين هادوا والنصارى والصائبين من آمن والصابئين من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر وعمل صالحا فلهم أجرهم عند ربهم ولا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون.
Thank you very much. Can you read it again? Aya?
Yeah. إن الذين آمنوا والذين هادوا والنصارى والصابئين من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر وعمل صالحا فلهم أجرهم عند ربهم ولا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون.
Do you guys notice الصابئين sound grammatical structure? It's a noun after inna, and it needs to be in the accusative, and it is in the accusative, ina. That goes in direct contradiction to 569, right? So even the explanation by errors, scribal errors, cannot be explained by this example.
How so?
Because it's an almost replica of the other verse in Surah Al-Ma'idah. إن الذين آمنوا والذين هادوا والنصارى والصابئين. Here, the only difference is that the Sabi'in in Surah Al-Ma'idah came before Al-Nasara, and it came Sabi'un.
I have a question. I remember hearing a long time ago from someone who taught me that a lot of the grammar, like a lot of Arabic grammar, was modeled off of like the Qur'an. How accurate is that? Like, was a lot of modern standard Arabic modeled from the Quran?
No, 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 it wasn't.
Okay.
Why?
No, I was just curious because if it was, then maybe not everything was taken. If like modern standard Arabic didn't really develop as a written form until after the Quran was.
That is very true. Modern standard Arabic did not, or classical Arabic did not develop except a long time after the Quran. But the syntactic rules of classical Arabic, this is actually a good chunk of the history of Arabic class, comes from two different sources, and the Quran became a governing text only in the 4th century. Like governing text, meaning that everything that the Quran has was supposed to be accurate. But in the 2nd and the 3rd centuries of the Islamic era, in the beginning of Arabic scholarship, things were called mistakes, like we saw with al-Farra dealing with the variation in the Rasm of the Quran.
Okay.
Questions or comments? So all these explanations, including the mistake explanation, cannot be sufficient on their own. Shall we go for another example? Okay. I take this as a yes. Okay. Let's go to oh God. Yes. Surah 11, verse 73. Surah 11, verse 73, which is Surah Hud. Are you guys there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. Can you read it to us, Ibtihal?
You said 73, right?
Did I say 73? Why
Yeah, I
does
think so.
it is, yes, 73, that's correct.
Okay. قالوا تالله لقد علمتم ما جئنا لنفسد في الأرض وما كنا سارقين.
Is that it?
No.
No, it is not.
Oh.
What is it, Hiba?
Oh, you said Surah 2, my bad.
It's
I'm
okay.
on the wrong surah.
That's fine. Hiba, can you please read it for us?
قالوا أتعجبين من أمر الله رحمة الله وبركاته عليكم أهل البيت إنه حميد مجيد.
Very good. Once more, please.
Sorry. Okay. قالوا أتعجبين من أمر الله رحمة الله وبركاته عليكم أهل البيت إنه حميد مجيد.
Very good. Do you guys notice Rahmatullahi, where the ta is a regular ta, right? And
Yes,
according to
مربوط.
it should be ta marbuta, absolutely, Sajda. It should be ta marbuta, but it is not. And you will see in a lot of interpretations in the Quran, they say that Rahmatu Allah is written in a regular ta to distinguish it from all other sorts of rahmah. So to specialize the mercy of the Lord and distinguish it from all other kinds of mercy by human beings, right? So people say that, interpreters say that. If you go to now, Surah number 14, verse 34. 14, verse 34. Are you there?
Yeah,
Okay, can you read it, Mahmoud?
sure. Uh, وآتاكم من كل ما سألتموه وإن تعدوا نعمة الله لا تحصوها إن الإنسان لظلوم كفار.
Once more, please.
وآتاكم من كل ما سألتموه وإن تعدوا نعمة الله لتحصوها إن الإنسان لظلوم كفار.
Very good. Can you guys notice the word ni'mah? How is it written?
It's written with a ta.
What kind of a
Same as
ta?
the ta maftuh, the same as the rahmat that
Rah-
we just saw.
Yes. Okay. Now, let's go to Surah number 16, verse 18. Surah number 16, verse 18. Are you guys there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good. Who can read it to me?
I can read it.
Okay, Fred, go for it.
وإن تعودوا نعمة الله تحصوها وإن الله لغفور رحيم.
Once more.
وإن تعودوا
عدوا نعمة الله
وإن تعودوا نعمة الله لا تحصوها إن الله
إن
لغفور
الله
إن الله لغفور رحيم.
لغفور رحيم.
لغفور رحيم.
Very good. Okay, you guys, can you notice the word نعمة in نعمة الله? وإن تعدوا نعمة الله.
Yeah, it's written with the ta marbuta.
Absolutely. So, the word نعمة is written in a ta maftuha, and we have given it, just for the sake of the argument, the explanation that it is written so in a non-conventional fashion because we needed to distinguish the ni'mah and the rahmah of God from the ni'mah and the rahmah of other human beings. But the word ni'mah here and of course the word rahma in other places, are written conventionally with ta marbuta. So the explanation or the explanations for variation in the rasm of the Quran always find examples to challenge them. Methodologically speaking, therefore, it is extremely difficult to make a coherent apology for variation in the rasm of the Quran. And I would like to qualify the word apology. Who knows what apology means?
It's a defense by those who believe.
Yes, it's a defense by those who believe. It's not saying I'm sorry. It's a defense. Okay, so creating an apology that the variation in the rasm of the Quran is tawqifi for a semantic reason that can only be understood in or from the context is in fact difficult to prove methodologically, because a simple sifting through the text will always either find other plausible semantic explanations or will downright challenge the notion of connecting a particular semantic meaning to a particular fashion of spelling. Now, you may probably appreciate why I said in the beginning of the class, I am not here to explain or give an apology for this phenomenon. Now, the question now remains, if, say, is it possible for us, for the sake of facilitating or making the Quran a little bit more accessible, can we use a non-Arabic script that can transport short vowels and overcome the shortcomings of the Arabic script? Can we recommend that?
Not traditionally.
Even in a modern sense, you can't. Even a practically minded person cannot. Even a person who does not believe in the divinity of the text cannot, because there is yet something in the rasm of the Quran that needs an explanation. If you can provide ample evidence that variant spelling in the Quran, in the rasm of the Quran, is a product, is a developmental product, i.e. mistakes of early conventional non-standard use, then you can, but that evidence does not exist as of yet. if by the same token, you make the assumption that the convention, that the variant spelling is there for a semantic reason, hence a tawqifi spelling, you will have to find a way to transport that same tawqifiyya into the new script. Once you try to do that, then you will be faced with the other questions. Why is there these instances of non-conventional spelling? What is the purpose? What is the function? Next class, I am going to talk to you about the other instances where the spelling in the Quran differs from spelling in classical Arabic in general, and also in spelling within the Quran itself. What we have tried to do today was basically to understand the phenomenon and the schools of thought around the phenomenon. Next time, we will go deeper into Quranic examples and also go further into the implications of these examples. So please be prepared with your mushaf. Any questions or comments?
So what you're saying is that because there's unique variances within the Quranic text, therefore it has to be read within Arabic, because then if you were to try to translate that, you can't translate it to another text. Is that the argument?
I did not use the word translate.
Okay.
I used the word transport, because I'm still talking about only the spelling convention. And I said, if you need to do that, Brian, you need to find explanations and give answers to these questions. Right?
Okay, I understand.
Okay. Other questions or comments? No?